In this video, I'm going to show you how to draw some type of space scene, something like this in Adobe Illustrator. So let's get started. Let me show you how to set everything up. All right, we're going to make a new document. It's going to be a print document. I want to show you a little bit about CMYK. So we're going to go in here and say print. And we want it to be a letter size. We want the orientation to be horizontal. And let's go ahead and call this, name it. I'll just name mine space. I'm going to leave the color mode on CMYK and the raster effects at 300. All right, first of all, I'm going to close all these windows and I want to show you how to open everything up. So let's reset the workspace so that we're all looking at the same thing. So we're going to have properties and layers open over here. And there's a few other things that you're going to want to have open. So let's go and open color. And put that over here. Let's open transparency. And I'm going to separate that from stroke. And let's open gradients for sure. And and then swatches. And we're probably going to open this too so we can see a little bit more. All right, I'm actually just going to put the stroke and docket over here. I won't use that one as much. These are the ones I'm going to use the most. So color, transparency, gradient, and swatches. Although, of course, we can do a lot of those things over here in the properties as well. So let's go ahead and name our first layer background. I'm just going to put BG. And I'm going to show you how to draw the background that's going to fit the page exactly. Now, we set this up as a print document, which is normally a different unit of measure, but I want to show you how to change it to inches because this is something that's on the certification test. So click on your rectangle tool and just click anywhere in the document. You'll see that we have it set to points, which is the default setting for print. So I want you to go in preferences. Now, on my computer, I'm on a Mac. I have preferences here. You guys are going to have it in the edit menu. So you'll go all the way down to the bottom of the edit menu to get your preferences, or you can just press Control K and go to units. And we want to go over here, click on units, and where it says general, let's say inches. All right, so that is a question on the test, so this is something good to know. Say OK. And now when we click on our background, we get inches. So we want 11 inches wide and 8.5 inches high. Say OK. And we're going to drag that into the center of our page. And right now we have a white fill with a black stroke. I'll go over here and do this in properties. We don't want any stroke at all, so click on that and say no stroke. So for the fill on this background rectangle, we want to put a gradient in there. So go down to swatches and you can choose just the black and white one. And I'll show you how to edit that from a basic swatch that's already included. So you want to go over to the gradient window and we're going to choose radial gradient. And right off the bat, you can see that it's really big. So we're going to scooch this black way in here like that because we're going to kind of make this sun coming out from the middle. And we want to double click on this and kind of get an orange color. So that means yellow with a little bit of magenta in it. And we want to hold the Alt key to drag another color stop. And let's double click this one and make it more of just probably a light yellow, almost a white color. Now you'll see that when you're using CMYK black, that when it's fading from one color to another, it gives you this kind of dull gray thing. So what you need to do with CMYK black is double click on it and drag in some of the other colors that you're using to mix in with the black. Now you can see it looks a whole lot better. So in this gradient, I'm actually going to pull the black over closer to the edge, but then I'm going to take this little diamond slider and scooch that over there. That way we have more of a subtle fade into the black. So get your star tool, it's behind your rectangle tool, click in the middle of your sun, Let's make this like 25, and let's make the radius 1, or radius 2 1 inches and radius 1 4 inches, something like that. And then let's give this a little bit of a blur. So go to Effect, Blur, Gaussian Blur, and let's put it around 15 will probably work. And then we want to lower the opacity of this. So go to Transparency and lower the opacity so it's kind of a subtle thing. Let's let go of that and see how it looks. It's alright. It's not exactly what I'm looking for. I think I'm going to lower the opacity a little bit more. Somewhere closer to 10. Okay, I think that looks better. Okay, so now we have a background. Maybe we could go ahead and lock that so we don't accidentally select anything. Let's go make a new layer and let's work on our first planet. So what you want to do is go over here and get the ellipse tool, and we are going to hold the shift key so we can drag this ellipse like that. And we're going to put a gradient in this one also. So let's click on the black and white and create a gradient. Get your gradient tool and click and drag across from one end to the other, and then you can make the edits over here. So by holding the Alt key, you can drag new colors to put in there. So you can double click and let's add a little bit of color here. And then once again on the black, don't forget in CMYK you need to enrich the black by adding some of the other colors that you're using into the black. And you can always go over here on this little slider and adjust things some more like that. I'm going to take this black and add some more magenta to it. Get like a real Mars looking color. Actually, I need to click on this and make it more of I think it'll look better if it's more of a radial blur. And then we can get the gradient tool and select it like that. And let's shorten, whoops. That looks a lot better because now it's curved. Okay, so we're going to go with that for now, and I do want to slide this up a little bit more so that the black is fading a little more gradually. Oops. Okay, we'll go with that. And let's see, the next thing we want to do is I'm going to select our planet and we're going to copy it. And you're not going to paste it yet. You're just going to copy it because it's going to be in the clipboard, and you're going to need that copied several times, and I'll show you why. Okay. So now I want to put kind of a blue glow on the back end of this planet because there's going to be like this glowing blue orb there. So I have this copied. Click that, copy it again, and go Object or Edit, Paste in Place. So that put another copy of it there. And I want to change this gradient to have just some blue to transparent. So I'm going to put on black and white again. I have that already here, but I'm just going to make it a new one every time just so you can see how to make gradients. So we're going to put a radial gradient on there. This time we're going to change this color to cyan. We'll take out the black, and we're going to change this one to cyan also. But the difference is the opacity is going to be 0 so that it goes from blue on the edge to nothing. So then you're going to get this gradient tool here and just whoops, click on the gradient tool and drag this until it just goes on the edge of your planet. It takes a little bit of practice to figure out exactly where you want it to go. Just some trial and error. So if you go way out here, we don't want that. We want this to go here. Let's move this slider over here. so that it's just hitting the edge of that planet. This actually needs to be smaller. There we go. Now I finally got it. So you need the circle to be about the size of your planet so that it's just going around the edge of it like that. That looks pretty good. And then let's go ahead and draw that blue orb thing that we have that's throwing that highlight on this planet. So what you're going to do is get a rectangle tool for this. Just draw a big rectangle like that. It's going to end up being the same color that you just used, which is fine. You can go over here to this button and say reverse gradient, and that way it's going from blue to transparent. You can pull this out. This color here needs to be cyan also though, or it actually needs to be black so that it fades into the same color that you have in the sky. And there you go. So it goes from cyan to black, but the black is a rich black. Make sure you add the cyan into it. You can even add magenta into it. Nah, actually just the cyan. Just black and a little bit of magenta and cyan, and just make sure that the opacity is 0 on that. And you can take this and make it smaller if you want. Oops. Hold the shift key when you scale that. And we can kind of move this up here above it. Let's make it bigger though, because it wouldn't be making that much of a reflection if it was that small. I'm going to show you how to kind of put a texture in the planet. So get your pencil tool, which is behind the paintbrush. You can press N on your keyboard. And you're going to start way out here on the outside of your planet, all right? And just draw like some squiggly lines and come back in around like that. It's just to give this planet a little bit of texture so it just doesn't look like, too boring here. Try not to let go of the pencil. Keep it held down. If you accidentally let go of it, then start over. Just going to give it some stripes, and then you want to go back around, go all the way, and go back to where you started. And when you see that circle, you can let go of it. And then you're going to do, remember we have that circle, it's still in our clipboard, so you can go edit, paste in place again, and that makes that another circle on top of it. And let's click on that little blob that we just drew. Go over to the path over here on your layers and click this to target it. Let's make it a color so we can actually see what's going on. So click that, and then hold the shift key and click that other ellipse that you made. So we have both things selected, the little squiggly lines and the ellipse that we pasted. Go to Properties, Pathfinder, and click on this one here. Click to intersect. And then that will give you just those little squiggly lines that you drew. And then you can lower the opacity on that. So go over to Appearance and just lower the opacity. So you want those to be subtle. You don't want it to be standing out too much. That just gives your planet a little bit of interest. All right, the next thing we want to do to this planet is to give it some rings like Saturn. So let's go over here to our layers. You see we have this planet group going on here, and we have this orb looking thing. Let's pull that orb on the top there. Okay, so let's go to our shape tools and get the ellipse. And this time we're going to start way over here on the edge and drag out these things that are going to be our rings. So do the bigger circle first, okay? So don't start too small. Go ahead and make the outside of these rings like that. And let's just pick a solid color for now. And then you're going to go over here to the scale tool. So if you click where the rotate tool is on the top, if you click that and pull out this menu, you'll get scale. You can press S on your keyboard. Just double click that. and it's going to give you a window, and you can press 80%. That should be fine, and then press copy. Don't press OK. Press copy, and you can see it gave us another copy of it. Let's change the color of it so we don't get confused. And use your arrow keys on your keyboard to just bump it up a couple clicks. Something like that should be good. Click on the black one and the yellow one and go over to Properties and go to Pathfinder. Click minus front. So we're going to take the inside of that ring out. So click on Scale again, double click. This time put in 70 and say Copy. And then take your arrow key again and nudge it up just a little bit so we kind of have that going on. All right, and then we're going to click on both of those. So hold the Shift key to click on both. And we're going to group that, Object Group or Control G. So now when we select it, it is one group like that. All right, so line it up with your planet, kind of center it like that. And now I'm going to show you how to knock out the back end of those rings so it looks like it's going around the planet instead of in front of it. So there's a number of different ways you can do this. I think the easiest way is, well, let me show you how to do a transparency mask. That's a pretty good way to do it. So we're going to click on those two rings, go over here where it says transparency. You can see you have the rings over here on this side. You're going to say make mask, okay? Then uncheck this clip. All right, so now you see them again. It looks like it didn't do anything, but you're going to go on that transparency mask side and go to Edit, Paste in Place, because we still have that sphere from the planet in our clipboard. So that's why you want to leave that copied in there. And then you are going to fill it with black. All right, so we want to chop this sphere in half. We don't want to have the whole thing there. We want the clipping mask just to be on the back of the rings. Get your scissors, click on this, click on this, and then get your direct selection tool, click on that point, and just delete those points that you have left. All right, so now the rings are going around Saturn. You can go over here if you want to edit them on this side, and let's rotate them so that they're not just at a straight angle. There you go. And let's put a gradient on them as well. So I want them to be light over here and fading to dark on that side. So we're going to switch that by dragging this little thing like so. All right, so let's change the color. So let's double click on this white, give it a yellow, and then we want it to fade to black, but we want it to be a blackish yellow. So let's click on that and add yellow into our black. Maybe make this not too dark of a black. We want to still see the other side of the ring a little bit. There's just a shadow on that side. All right, so there we go. We have that. Let me change the color of that. I don't really love those yellow rings. Let's kind of make it more of an orangey color. Orangey beige. Let's go over here on that black and double click that. Get rid of some of the yellow. Whoops, some of the yellow. And some of the black. There we go. All right, so I see that this isn't lining up right there. So you can always go in here and let's edit our transparency mask. So click on this. Make sure you go to the mask is what you want to move around. So let's click on that mask. Yeah, I can see that's not really lined up perfectly. So I'm going to use my arrow keys. I have it selected and I'm just bumping it. But you got to make sure you're clicked on this and not this. This is your mask and that's what I needed to move. Go to your layers and that's planet 1 we already have. Let's make another layer here. Planet 2. All right, so now we have our layer. We're ready to start our next planet, Earth. Let's draw an ellipse. and I have it in black and white, and the radial, or the type of gradient we want is radial. And let's get our gradient tool and drag a circle, or drag the line like this. And let's change the colors. We want, it's actually fine if the beginning one is white. Let's hold the Alt key and drag an extra color block. Double click on that, and let's go with cyan. And double click on this. We want it to be black, but let's richen the black up by adding the full cyan to it like that. Let's start drawing some of the land masses on there. So on this planet we did these little stripes like that. We're going to do something similar here, and I'm not going to draw the continents exactly how they are because this is not actually Earth, it's just something Earth-like. So let's click on that and let's make these green. Don't worry, we're going to lower the opacity so it will look a little bit better. Alright, that's good enough. Let's hold the Shift key and click on all these little land masses here. And let's go to transparency, and where it says opacity, let's lower it a bit. Maybe put it on multiply. So put those land masses on multiply and lower the opacity. So we have that. And if you want to, you can do the same thing again and add some clouds. So you could add like some white swirls going across the planet. And get your selection tool and hold the Shift key and click on all these white things, and let's lower the opacity again on that. Probably doesn't matter if you change it or not. You could put it on lighten or screen. Pretty much the same effect there. Alright, now let's select everything for that planet. So we have planet 2. If you click on this, it selects all of it. And we are going to hold the Shift key and grab the corner and reduce it. So we're going to have this planet be a lot smaller and have it over here. Okay, I see that I don't like how the white, this white should be like fading. It shouldn't be so obviously white on there. So I think I'm going to put a little gradient on that so that it fades from white to transparent. So let's go to this and that, change that to the opacity to be 0. Okay, that's much better. Alright, and then let's do a moon. So I'm going to start off making it bigger, and obviously it'll be smaller when I'm done with it. Once again, I'll start off with a black and white gradient just to be consistent so you can get practice at making these gradients. Oops, I should have pushed this first. I was going to push radial and then get the gradient tool and drag this out here. And let's make our moon white, obviously, right there. And then we're going to fade it, hold the Alt key and drag out another color stop. Double click it. Let's give it kind of this little bit of a beigey color. So it's almost white, but not quite. And we actually need the highlight to be more on the front. Something like that. And then let's draw like some craters. I'm not going to do anything too fancy with this. And these last two, well, click on all of them. You can actually just click on one of them and go to select same fill color, and it gets all the same things that you have the same color, and you can do Control G. That way it's grouped so that whenever you want to select them, you can. And again, we're going to lower the opacity on that so that it's just kind of subtle. I'd probably put a blend on it again too. That actually doesn't look that good unless you put a gradient on it. This time I'm just going to keep it a straight up linear gradient. And I'm going to click on this and then hold the Shift key and get both of those. And fortunately, we're going to make this really small so you can't see that it's not really the greatest thing in the world. And we'll put it over here next to Earth like that. So the next thing I'm going to do is kind of have a bit of a horizon, because we're going to be on another planet, and this is just the sky that we're seeing from that other planet. So I want to go and put that behind the planets and just above this background layer. So I'm going to put a new layer there. You can call it horizon. And we are going to get a rectangle and start here at the bottom and drag up somewhere probably like that. All right, this is going to be some trial and error here. I'm going to get the gradient tool. It should be linear. Click on the bottom. We can just make that gradient go from, top to bottom like that, and we'll make our edits over here. All right, this is a little bit tricky. I want to have several different colors, so I'm going to go ahead and hold the Alt key and drag out some color stops. I want this black here is actually going to fade to 0, so it's going to be transparent. Then I want this one to be kind of bright because that's where the horizon is, maybe not that bright. Give a little bit of magenta in there. And then this color here, I want it to be, I'm going to need to put the yellow and orange color and then darken it. And I might not even need that one. Let me try getting rid of that. That's actually pretty good. Something like that is what I want. So if I want to lower the opacity on some of these stops, I like that much better when the opacity is at 100. All right, I think that's pretty good. I'm going to go ahead and leave that like that. So now we have like the horizon of this planet here. I'm going to go ahead and add some extra little details to it. So let's get the pencil tool again. And these can just be really rough shapes. And I'll show you what we're going to do with them when I'm done. Right now it's going to look like garbage and not make any sense. And let's make them kind of an orange color. And have some of them don't, whoops, I don't like that one because I intersected with the line. I'm going to start over. Some of them can just not go through the whole thing, but make sure that they're kind of tapered at the ends. And then I'm going to change the opacity on them too. Let's hold the Shift key and select all of them and kind of scrunch it up like that. And we're going to pull it down here on the horizon. And the opacity is going to be a little bit different on each one. So let's go to transparency and make that one. Each layer is going to be a little more opaque than the one before it. Because when it gets to the horizon, it's kind of foggy, so you can't really see it as good. And I can go ahead and leave that one mostly opaque. I'm actually going to change the color of that one to be a little bit more yellowy so you can see it a little bit more. Same with that one. I'm going to give it a little bit more of a yellow. Alright, and now I'm going to add like some mountains and rocks. So we're going to add that on top of the horizon. So let's make another new layer. You can just call it landscape. So I'm going to grab the pen tool to draw my mountains. I want to start right there on the edge and just click some lines here. There is no wrong way to do this, so be free to do whatever you want. You can click and drag to make it to be more curvy, or if you want it to be angular, you cannot drag. I want to make sure at the bottom for it to look kind of like a valley. So I'm going to keep my mountain range lower and then go up really high on the sides to kind of frame it out. And then when you get to the edge of the page, click and stop right there, go down to the bottom corner, click there, go down to the bottom left corner, and close your path like that. And we are going to copy this. So I made it orange. So it's going to be like the highlight that's on there, and then I'm going to make another copy of it. Control C, Control V. We're going to make that copy black, and I'm going to put it just below the first layer so that you have like that highlighted edge there. All right, and then you're going to make some more mountains, and these are just going to be kind of faded from the other ones. So let's make another layer, drag it behind this landscape. I'll just call it Faded Rocks. And you can get the pencil tool for this one and just draw some different rocks. So like that there's more mountains and stuff that are in this landscape that are going to be more closer to the horizon. So we can color those in maybe like this dark brown color. We're going to lower the opacity so that you can't really see them too good. I'm going to use my eyedropper to copy that color. I'm making them flat on the bottom. And if you make any that are behind the other ones, just make them a little bit lighter and make the opacity even more. And you're going to want to send those to back, Object, Arrange, send to the back of that layer. And I'm actually just going to hold my Alt key and copy some of these so that I don't have to keep drawing them from scratch. Maybe I can go over here and just flip them, stretch it out. So I'm going to make a new layer. Let me go to the background and name this one Stars. And I'm going to get white as the foreground color. And I'm going to get my brush tool. So you can press B on your keyboard to access the brush tool. And I'm just going to click a dot there and see how big that is. So that's a good size. If you want to change the size of your brush, remember your bracket keys to the right of your P on your keyboard can change the size. So I'm going to draw a couple of them that are bigger like this, and then I'm going to use the bracket key on the left or just to the right of my P and make smaller dots and then some even smaller ones. You definitely want to have mostly really small dots, but it's good to have a few bigger ones as well. All right, I'm going to try making a comet on here, so I'm going to get the pen tool and I'm going to draw a series of like thin triangle, long thin triangles. So make a point, don't click and drag, just make a point, go out a little bit, come back, and you're just making this really skinny little triangle. And let's fade it from, let's give it a gradient. And we're going to flip that so it's white on this side and it fades to black. Scoot that in a little bit more. You don't need that black right there. Let's see how that looks. I think it needs to be a little bit more spaced out. And then I'm going to take this and copy it. So I'm going to hold the Alt key. And I'm going to stretch this copy out even more, like that. Then I'm going to take the top copy and do Alt and drag another copy of that one. And then let's grab all three of those and do Control G, group, and then reduce the size of it. And let's spin it around at an angle like that. And let's just give it, let's kind of make like a little bit of a rock shape at the front of it. So let's get the pen tool and just kind of draw a rough shape of a rock. And I'm going to hold the Shift key and group those together like that. All right, that looks pretty good. I think I'll have it coming just below the earth like that. All right, if you want to make a couple copies of it, just hold the Alt key and drag. Maybe you can make a smaller one that's going farther away, so there's kind of like a meteor shower happening. I think I'll make one more. All right, when you're done, make sure you type your name on it. So go to your very top layer. You can just put it on the top layer there. Get the text tool, click on the lower right-hand side, and type your name. All right, I'm going to do Control A to select all of it. It's black on black, so you can't see it. And change the color. Just move it to the bottom right, and then we'll do a save. So go File, Save. That'll be your Illustrator copy, and then you need to save a JPEG that you're going to put in your website. So you'll go to File, Export, Export As. Make sure you click Use Artboards, choose JPEG, and say Export. We did a CMYK color on this, but for your website, just put it on RGB. You can keep the quality on medium and the screen resolution 72 for your web version.